Hey guys, welcome. I'm Morgan Giss McDonald, founder CEO of Paper Raven Books, and I have with us today Jennifer Crosswhite, who is an author. She's worked in publishing. She is one of our lead developmental editors and writing coaches. And Jennifer, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, it's fun. I always enjoy getting and talking about publishing and writing and books. I mean, that's really the best thing you can talk about. And today it's raining, so I'm really in a book mood. If I had a book and some tea, it would be perfect. I wish I could do that today.
Absolutely. So you have just released your brand new book, and this one's actually not a fiction novel. You usually write novels, but this one is a little bit different. Can you tell us about your new book, Eat the Elephant?
Well, I have to laugh because I always tell people it's a book about how to write a book, which seems a little meta, but it was fun. So Eat the Elephant, how to write and finish your book one bite at a time. And it's just been a compilation of everything I've been teaching for many years and my own writing process as well. I tell people I got to the point after I wrote my first couple books where, your first books, you have a lot of time. You get a lot of feedback, you get a lot of coaching, and I was super blessed to be able to have people in the publishing industry really give me some good insight into those first books. But after that, you're like, okay, how do I do more? What's the process? And a lot of advice is very broad and general. Make sure your hero does something heroic. Like,
thanks.
How does that look on the page? So I'm really practical. So I literally took like a whole roll of butcher paper on the dining room table, and it sat there for a week, and I had color markers, and I had all my writing books out there, and I just started writing down all of the advice I had gotten and had learned, and how do I put this in a structure that I can use as a blueprint over and over for every book that's going to help make sure that I answer all the questions I need to. I'm not going back and going, oh crap, I totally forgot this whole thing about my character I needed to have, and I'm halfway through the book. So it was really for me to begin with. And then as I started sharing it with other authors and even my, best-selling authors friends, they were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So I thought, well, maybe I should share this with more people. So, I started a course, and then ended up people saying we want more. And so the book finally got written. It took a while, but it finally got there.
So who do you imagine this is for? Is that you mentioned that you had taught this novel blueprint method to like other best-selling authors. Like, is this for people who are just on their first novel, people who've written novels before? Kind of who did you have in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say an answer you're not supposed to say, which is sort of everyone, and it's really not for everyone, but it is for the beginning author all the way through the advanced author. I mean, if you are already a multi-book author and you have your system and it works for you, then this is not for you. But beginning authors, people who are thinking about writing a book and are like, I don't even know where to begin. But even, like I said, advanced authors who had 8 or 10 books out and were like, it is a struggle every time to work my way through this book. I never know where I'm going to go. I restart and I go over again, and I just don't feel like I'm being super efficient. They found it really helpful too. So it really is beginning through advanced writers.
And one thing that just in our conversations about the novel blueprint method that I find really fascinating is that you talk a lot about how it helps you set up for not just the one novel, but like several, sort of like you're thinking about kind of a blueprint for several novels. So I can imagine like if you've written a novel and you're like, oh, I know there's a sequel in there somewhere, but I'm not sure how to sort of bridge it and make the whole story structure work. It sounds like this is kind of a perfect method for, yes, one book, but several books too.
Yeah, and the thing is, what's working really well in the market is a series. 3 book, 5 book, 6 book, whatever, however long you want to go. There are authors. I currently am reading a cozy mystery that's on book 18.
Wow.
I'm curious to see how long she's going to make it last. So far, she's doing a good job. But readers like that, right? We binge watch shows, right, on Netflix. The whole season drops. We binge watch all of them. And I think that habit is going over into books. And so it does definitely do you well to think about that from the beginning, because I didn't do this with my series. And by the time I got to book 3, I was like, wow, wish I would have known that when I wrote book 1. That would have been a really cool thing to plant way back in that day. And so the nice thing about the blueprint is you can quickly sketch out your whole series. And so you don't have to write all the books, but you do have all the information you need so that by the time you get to book 3, you have planted all the really cool clues that you want in book 1. And it's the same whether you're writing a interconnected series where the focus on the character might be a little different in each book, but it's either around a town or a group of people or something like that. Or if you have the same main character that is growing through all of the books, that also will work well with that, because it's helping you ask the right questions that you need to ask at the beginning, so you have something that's sustainable over the whole arc. I mean, if you create a character that's not very big and you want to write a 6 or a 10 book series, or you don't know how many books are going to be in it, he may not have a growth arc that is big enough to sustain that whole series arc. And then that's where you get people, the read off dropping. Like you'll see on your read through, people might like books 1, 2, and 3, but then they don't pick up anything after book 4. And that was because the character wasn't rich enough to sustain that kind of series.
Wow. Okay, we're about to dive into some good stuff. Guys, if y'all want to get Jennifer's free book, grab a free copy of her book right now. I dropped the link in the comments. So it's free on Amazon. If you have a Kindle, you can get it delivered straight to your Kindle. If you don't have a Kindle, you can get it free anyway. Read it on your browser or iPad or any of those app kind of devices. So click the link in the comments and you can grab your free copy today. So, okay, Jennifer, what are some of the things that you've noticed in talking with other people about the novel blueprint, teaching it, now writing it? Like, what are a few of those things that fiction writers consistently struggle with that you have something practical for us to take away?
So, I mean, 2 things: character and plot. And most people tend towards one or the other. I've got a great character, I just really know this character, I don't know what they should do. Or they like, oh, I have this great scenario, I don't know who to put in it, right? And so, I mean, a book is really an interesting character doing something worth reading about. And so from the brain science, we know that readers actually identify with the main character as if they're kind of living that life vicariously through them. So there has to be that connection. You have to feel like, I can relate to this character. There's something about them I can understand in some way. I have read many novels where the character is perfect. The man has all these skills, and he's never lost a fight, and he's rich, and he's handsome, and all the women love him, and he has all these resources. And so you're like, I can't relate to that. I don't understand that life. So
I don't believe that.
It's not believable. You don't know anybody like that, right? So even if he was like, because what's hot right now is billionaire romance. Even if he's a billionaire, right, he's got to have like a struggle. Maybe he's shy, or maybe he has imposter syndrome, or maybe he never feels like he can relate to girls, whatever it might be. They have to have something that you can relate to, where you go, oh, yeah, I totally get that. I want to see how he handles that problem, because I've had that problem. I'm curious to see how it works out. That's kind of what the brain is doing. So the character has to be somebody that the reader can relate to. So in the blueprint method, we go through all the questions that you need to ask to make sure you are creating a genuinely rich character that is going to be sustainable. It's going to feel like a person that you actually know. And then the other problem, of course, is the plot. And this is my personal struggle, which is why I was like, how are we going to fix this? You can have a beginning and you can have an end, you know where you want to go. But we always call it sort of the messy middle. You're like, I don't know, they do this and they do that. And then some time happens and then, whatever. That's not interesting at all. Like, nobody cares about that. So you've got to come up with enough conflict and things to continually overcome for your character, so people want to keep reading. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was going to happen. And then, oh my gosh, that's happening. How are they going to get past that? Like, you've got to have these things that continually ratchet up. And even if you're writing romance where you don't expect it, like explosions and guns and like it's not Mission Impossible, there's still the relationship tension. We all know relationships don't go smoothly. They're not all perfect. And so there's all sorts of things that happen that people have to overcome before they can earn their happily ever after. If your reader doesn't feel like the character worked for that, and they don't feel like they earned it, then that's going to not feel like it's a real rewarding experience. And what you want is for the readers to go, wow, that was so cool. Where's the next book? I can't wait to read it.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Okay. So people always want to know, like, what's your writing process? I think a lot of us, when we're still in the early stages, we're writing on the side, nights and weekends, kind of side hustle thing. We imagine that, like, oh my gosh, someday I'm going to be this author who's written 9 novels and, I've got it all together and my writing life's going to be amazing. Can you give us, because I mean, this is your kind of full-time gig now, right? You have how many novels out?
Well, Eat the Elephant was book number 11.
Oh, nice. Okay, so you're over the 10 threshold.
Yeah.
What does your writing life usually look like now?
Okay, so it's interesting. When I am on my game, my best writing time is the morning. So I like 2 hours in the morning. And one thing you have to realize is that when you are a writer, the writing part is about half of what you do. The other half is you still have to market your book. You still have to think about promotions. You still have to put, all sorts of connections out with other authors so you can do joint promos together. I mean, there's a lot. It's a business, and you have to really think of it like a business and be prepared to run it like a business. So you don't get to write 8 hours a day, and it would be really hard. I know there are people that do that for certain periods of time, and they put out massive amounts of books and everything. But for me, my best writing time is the morning. And so I like the morning for that. And then I like the afternoon for the other business part and, the other stuff that I do related to writing.
Like when you're editing and coaching with our community.
Yeah, if I can move that to the afternoon, that's just better for me. So there's two things I always tell people that are really important. Find out when your time is. When is your best creative time? There are writers that it's 11 o'clock at night. The kids are in bed and they get in bed and with their laptop, and that's when they write till 1 or 2 in the morning. I am like asleep by 9. So that is not a good thing for me. I'm not creative at night at all. I'm not. So like if I tried to write then, it would be super, super frustrating. So find out when is your best time. Sometimes maybe it's the afternoon. Everybody is different. So find your best time and really try to protect that time as best you can. I know we all have schedules and life is a little bit of crazy and you don't always have that kind of control, but the closer you can get to that time, the better. And then the second thing is make it a habit. We've been reading Atomic Habits in our group, and we're talking about it in our membership group, and it's super powerful. And the idea with Atomic Habits is they're small but powerful. So if you just sit down and open your Word document and type one sentence, like just getting your body into the habit of going in and typing one thing, and then maybe next week it's a paragraph, and then maybe next week it's more, whatever, till you build that habit. So you've got that groove in your brain, and your brain's like, oh, this is writing time. I need to be in that mode. One, it really does help you with writer's block because your brain is already primed and ready to go. It's like, well, yeah, we're in writing mode now. We're not thinking about the bills. We're not thinking about dinner, any of that. We're in writing mode. So the more you can make it a habit, that is just a super powerful way. The people that write on a regular basis are able to put the things out that they need to. They're able to be consistent and get their work out. And that's it. The reality in the world now of publishing is readers want a lot and they want it fast because we can get it, right? You can click something on your Kindle. I don't even have to go to the bookstore. I don't have to wait for Amazon to deliver it to me. I can just read it right now.
Yeah.
And so that goes back to that kind of binge reading thing. So the more you're able to be consistent, the more you can be productive. And that is just those two things are super powerful for making a productive writing career.
I want to kind of highlight something. You said 2 hours. That's not all day.
No, and it's not. But I can write. So let's just do some math, right? I can write 2,000 to 2,500 words in that time. If I've already got everything in my novel blueprint set up and I'm sitting down and I'm writing and I'm making progress on that, I can finish a substantial novel, like a 90,000 word novel in 5 weeks. So, I mean, it's really not, that's 10,000 words a week, 5 weeks. Okay. That's 50,000 words. I guess I can't do math, but anyways, if I write on the weekends and stuff, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a ridiculous, and of course I will say too, when I get momentum towards the end of the book, I can write 3,000 or 4,000 words in that time too. So as you get on, you'll write more.
But I mean, we can easily say like 3 months is totally doable.
Exactly. Right? This is the deal behind NaNoWriMo, which is this month. Mm-hmm. But the idea is that you write 1,700 words a day, and in a month you've got a 50,000 word novel. And 1,700 words a day is not terribly hard to do. It's at the beginning, it might seem ridiculous, but I had this client who had only been writing little like Facebook blog posts about her dogs and decided they're hysterical. And so the dogs have their own personality. They're little chihuahuas, so you can imagine they've got personality. So she started writing stories, putting them into stories and stuff. Yeah. And then all of a sudden she's like, NaNoWriMo, I've always wanted to write a cozy mystery. So she just took off. And she's a school teacher, so it's not like she has all day. She's writing when she gets home at night. And she's like, I can do this. She was so shocked that she could do it. She really could do it herself. And I think that's the thing is if you get over those limiting beliefs that I can only do 500 words, I can only do that. You know what? You have no idea. And I will say there's kind of this little writing dip. Like the first 500 words are hard and then it gets easier. And then like at 1200, it gets hard again and then it gets easier. And those numbers might be different for everybody. But if you press on through that, then it will be fine. And don't worry about being perfect. Just get the words down. You can fix it later. But you can do it. It is very, very doable. And so for many people, that's part of the success of Nano is to prove to people, oh, guess what? I can do it. And even if you don't write 50,000 words, maybe you wrote 35, maybe you wrote 40. I mean, it's hard. Thanksgiving's right in the middle of it, So that's always kind of a little weird. But, and then, I'm moving. So my Nano spirit is terrible. I did a lot of writing in the airport. But the point being, when you stay in the story, because you're writing every day, it will come faster. And if you're just trying to write on the weekends, it's much, much harder. So if you can grab 10 or 15 minutes, there are people who write on their phone in the bathroom. It's doable, or in the car line, or wherever you are. We have all this technology that makes it easy. So the more you stay in the story, the easier it is. I mean, even when my kids were little, now they're young adults, but when they were really little, I just kind of mentally popped in and out of the story as I was, working with them. Sometimes I tell them the story. That is interesting.
So, I can't see all of our names of people who are posting. So thank y'all for posting comments. We have a question. I'll come back and see who it is. So what about, we're talking about, once you're in writing mode, as long as you stay in the story, you can stay in the story. That presumes that you've set up the story, right? That's the whole point of the novel blueprint method. What does it look like for you to set up either a new novel within a series or kind of a new blueprint?
Yeah, so I am doing this right now. In fact, I'm doing it live in my membership group as I'm working through the book. I'm going through and then I'm writing about my comments about what I think about this. So I'm working on the final book in my historical series. Don't do what I did. I started 2 series and I jumping back and forth. Don't do that. Do one whole series, do another whole series. Yeah. But it's fun. And in this case, I had bits and pieces of different stories. I had one story I thought I was going to do, and then I had this other one, and I really wasn't sure what I was going to do. So the nice thing is the very first question on the novel blueprint is the nugget. What is the story about? Who is it? What are your ideas? It's just throw it out there. It doesn't have to be pretty. Just kind of what do you think is going to happen in this book, and who do you think is going to be in it, and what kind of themes do you want to touch on? Just very, very loose brainstorming. Then you start walking through. Okay, so I've decided this is the girl, Amelia. What is going to be her issues? And there's a series of questions like, what is her fear? What happened to her in the past that really has formed her view of the world right now? And we all have that. We all have like a wound that we sort of protect, and that develops some coping mechanisms that may or not be super healthy. And so part of the story is going to be, when you are confronted with those things, those deep emotional things, you can choose to go be an unhealthy person, and then the book ends, and that's not interesting. Or you can choose to fight through it and become a healthy person. So there's always this very deep, rich internal thing that your characters are going to go through. Then there's, of course, the external goal of what do they want that's the story that sets the story in motion that we're following. And so those two things, you're kind of ping-ponging back and forth, the internal and the external. And then, of course, if you're writing romance, you've got the hero and the heroine. If you're writing a multi-cast book, then you would do that for all of your major characters. And the goal is to really think about what's going on inside of them, even really before you start putting out the plot, because when you know what's going on inside of them, that will help you with the plot, because you will have lots of sources of conflict, right? If someone has a great fear of heights, well, you're going to have to make them go up somewhere high. right? There's going to have to be some reason they have to do that. So the more you know the inside of them and what's going on, now you start getting plot ideas. And that's part of what makes it a very rich and well-rounded story. So starting that at the beginning, it's just, I made my little rough notes, and then I said to the group, well, this is where I'm thinking. I'm having questions about this. I'm not sure about this. I'll come back and rewrite it. And by the time you get to the end, you will probably go back and make some adjustments because you know your characters better. But it's not a super long, it depends on how much time you want to spend on it.
Right.
But I personally like to give myself about 2 weeks of my 2-hour writing time to go through and really flesh it out. Now, by the time I'm done with that, I will probably have about 120 to 150 scenes already blocked out that I know need to happen. So then when I'm ready to sit down and write, I know what I'm writing. And that's what makes it go so much more quickly, because this is the opening scene. These 5 things have to happen in these next few scenes. So it gives you, again, you've got a pathway that makes things a little easier instead of sitting down at a blank page going, I have no idea what I'm going to write.
Yeah. Well, and you're very familiar with your method. So 2 weeks for you, it could be as many as 4 or 5 weeks for someone who's new to it, which is fine. And then let's say we're writing a little bit slower. So maybe instead of 5 weeks, we're spending, 8, 9, 10 weeks. We're still like talking months, rather than years, which I think is one of the big things that we want to, both you and I know that I tend to focus on nonfiction, and you've really brought fiction kind of to our writing community in a big way. But like what we sort of want for our writers, all of our writers, is to be able to like give you the tools to move through the writing process faster, because it ends up with a tighter book. You experience kind of like a smoother writing flow. The editing tends to be easier. Like everything kind of like goes better when you can kind of set up this idea of a structure and move through the writing sort of. I think the 2-hour chunks a day is awesome. And I think that's one of our superpowers, or one of our great advantages as a self-published author. We can, control not only how fast we write through the thing, but how fast it comes to market. And a lot of your traditionally published authors, they're getting faster a little bit, especially with some of the hybrids. So they're spending, instead of like 3 years in publication, maybe they're spending like 12 to 18 months in publication. But dang, we can get stuff out so fast. We're building our readership so much faster. We are allowing our readers to binge so much more. They are becoming, like, I would say, even bigger fans. And it's all because we're setting up our books ahead of time, writing through them quickly, getting them out to market. And I know, Jennifer, you just came back from, was it 20 books to 50K or something like that? Like, what are you seeing in the self-publishing world, especially for fiction writers, that is happening?
And that's really true, is the binge writing of the series. That's really a big thing. There are people that are putting crazy amounts of books out. Smaller books, let's say 45 to 55,000 word books every month. I don't know that that's super sustainable long term. And this may be the only thing that they have to do.
Maybe they don't have to do it long term. Maybe they do it for 3 or 4 years and they're like,
good. Then they're good. Author collaborations is another thing that's going on, and that takes a lot of organization to make sure that both people know what's going on with that. So, but it's true. And the problem with traditional publishing is they have a really big overhead and they have a very limited pipeline. And so they may want, you're a great author, they love you, whatever, right? But they only have room for you once every 3 years or once every 2 years. And so I'm seeing many of my traditionally published author friends having to go to self-pub because they've just got enough stories that they want to get out there. And they're like, 3 years, my readers don't even want to wait that long. Yeah. And so, and then once they get into the indie world, they're like, they're sold. They realize, oh, wow, we have control over these things. We can that's pretty cool. And the cool thing too is you building that relationship with your readers. When, I always tell people, you've got the link in the back of your book. Here's my newsletter. I'm going to give you a short story. I'm going to give you a novella, something like that. One of the things that I'm going to start doing, because Mark Dawson said this, was to do an epilogue, a secret epilogue to your book that they have to sign up for the newsletter to get.
Oh, I love that. You're hooking them right at the end.
They're already involved in the story. They have to know what else happens. So of course they're going to sign up for your newsletter. Now some of them may never interact with you, but I get emails every week from readers. And that is super cool. Like, you can have this relationship that you don't have any other way if you've got a big publisher standing in between you. And readers love that. They love to get to know you. I have a private Facebook group for my readers where we get to go in there and we ask silly questions. Like right now, I think we're talking about what your favorite musicals are. And, it's fun. Like, we get to know each other, and that kind of relationship is really cool. Like, you just don't get that in other places. So we have that ability to have access to our readers and for them to have access to us. And then it feels like it's a relationship and not just a transactional type of thing.
Totally. And I mean, those are the people who, as soon as you put out a new book, they were like, yes, I want it. So they probably love that you're, aiming to put out a couple of books a year. They're like, sweet, I don't have to like go find a whole bunch of new authors. It's like, I know that I think your fiction name is J.L. Crosswhite, right?
Yes, for my romantic suspense. Yeah.
Okay, got it. That's a whole nother topic, you guys. Right. Jennifer's got so much goodness. We could talk about, author names. We could talk about marketing. Like, we could go real deep, real fast. But I think the real heart of like our conversation today is like to help you guys not only start the fiction book that you're wanting to write, but finish it, right? Like, that's the whole thing, is to finish it, to get it out there, to start gathering your readership. So yeah, we want you to get the book for free. So Eat the Elephant, the link's in the comments. You can grab it for free today. Jennifer, is there any other like sort of advice, or now that you're looking back over like your career as an indie author and now 11 books that you've put out, is there anything that you wish that you could go back and kind of tell that younger version of yourself when you were first starting out?
Yeah, write faster. Be more disciplined. I mean, I will say this. I mean, even though I love my 2 hours in the morning, I'm at a season right now where I'm not following my own advice, and that's terrible. Like, I finish a book and then I go, oh, okay, I'm gonna let some other things creep in. So my goal is constantly to be better about preserving that time so I can be more efficient. And so I think just that is, I keep telling myself that, but I tell that to other people all the time. Find your time and preserve it. And then you do have the ability to put things out more quickly. Again, I would suggest doing one series at a time and being done with it before you jump to another series. Yep. But I always say it's an experiment. I've experimented so much with indie publishing, and you get to do that. You can try promotions, you can try this, you can try that. Some of it works, some of it doesn't work. That was one thing I took away from 20 books. People are experimenting all the time. And when you talk to other authors, and they're like, well, I did this. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll try that. That's kind of cool. See how that works. Like, there's not a huge downside to it. So it's worth experimenting. If you are afraid to put things out there, you got to try to get over it. I mean, I know it's hard because it's like putting your soul out there. But the better, the sooner, as soon as it, sort of minimally, I think Craig Martell calls it the minimally viable product.
Yep.
Put it out there. I mean, I'm not talking about like poorly written and bad typos. I'm not saying that. But literally, we could be rewriting our books for years and years and years. And we're just sort of rearranging the deck chairs. We're not making any substantive changes. It just needs to go. You just need to let it go. You might never feel like, I never feel like my books are ready to go. I never do. Mm-hmm. They would never be ready if I waited till I felt like I was ready. So as soon as I have my editing team tell me it's good to go, then it goes. And we just put it out there. And, with indie publishing, you can change it. You can change your back matter. You can change whatever if you'd like, if you find a typo or whatever, you can change that. So that's the great advantage. It's not set in stone. And so that's one of the things that makes it wonderful. So I just continue to say, press on, keep doing the things that to get yourself writing and motivated, and then put it out there and share it with the world.
I love that. So good. I know you triggered several keywords there, like editing team and back matter. People are like, oh, I want to hear more. That's all we got for today, guys. Go get Jennifer's book so that you can finish your dang novel, and then we can get into all the other stuff like editing and back matter and Facebook groups with your readers and epilogue newsletters and all sorts of crazy stuff. We need you to finish your novel first, at least get that first draft buttoned up, ready to send out to someone else to read. So thank you so much, Jennifer. I love talking with you. This is always
so much fun. We do this more often together. It's just always awesome. We have the best time, and I know we have the same mind, so it makes makes it so much more fun.
We're basically the same person. Just
we are really, except you're younger. So.
Well, hope the book launch goes amazing. It already has, I think, 10 reviews. You just like put it out there. It's already #1 in several categories. I think it was even climbing up in the reference category and publishing and book publishing. So excited to see how it goes for the next few days. Hope it rides the Amazon waves and stays up there.
Yes, I'm super excited because I don't do a lot of nonfiction. So this was, again, I did some experimenting with this to say, let's see what works from fiction that we can apply. What are some general principles, and let's see what happens. And it's been really fun. I've just loved it. I love the support. I love the writing community. It's been really great. It's been exciting to see that people are finding it helpful. So I'm excited.
If you're watching this and you're like, oh, I know someone in my life who's writing a novel, tag them so that they can get a free book. They would probably really appreciate it. So yes, thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you guys for hanging out, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.